Alright, we are back with Lantern Control, and today we're trying out the Millennium Calendar in the list, seeing if it can be a way that we can win a game faster. You know, just as a one-of to get off Saga. Obviously our deck isn't built around untapping it really, so we're kind of just seeing if the 7 or 8 turn clock that it can provide when it comes down is enough to get us there. We open up a pretty good hand on the play. 3 Urza Sagas means we're going to be able to get a pretty undisruptible lock early, as we're able to get Shredder and then just Lantern and either more lock pieces with Saga or make constructs, so it kind of leaves us a lot of options here. We see our opponent mulliganing, which is always nice. Always better, I guess, if we have Thoughtseize, and we elect to run out the Codex Shredder here. Just want something down, turn on the Spire. That way, if there's something fast, you know, we can play Prismatic Ending. If not, we can play Ancient Stirrings. And they run out of Polluted Delta and then pass. Polluted Delta could be a lot of decks at this point. Obviously, doesn't narrow it down. Kind of the big ones we'd be looking at are either Mill, Shadow, or it could be any like Murktide or something with Polluted Delta as one of their fetch lands. So we're going to mill them here to get a bit more information, and we're fortunate enough to mill an Odawara, which is quite nice. Again, this is going to be kind of looking either Shadow or Mill, I'd say, or two. It still could be Murktide for sure, but we'll see how these draws line up. So we draw Forest. Nice if it's Murktide or something with Blood Moon, even though Blood Moon is still pretty bad for us. We're going to Stirrings and see a Lantern here, which is obviously what we're going to take. And then we're going to just run out Lantern. And we see a top card EI. So again, this is either we're kind of down to Murktide or Grixis Shadow. Kind of the only really decks that we're looking at here. Fiery Islet, probably more likely Shadow, but this can still very much be Murktide. They play very similarly. Shadow and Murktide are very much kind of, you know, hand disruption, take a counter spell, resolve bridge, and then we win. You know, with 3 sagas here, we are definitely going to be able to flood the board a decent amount. We have Pending in hand, which is nice against either Murktide or Shadow. Shadow it's probably a bit nicer against. You know, we can take out the Shadows or anything. So we're just gonna start making constructs here. With 3 Urza Sagas, we can definitely flood the board. We see the new Tidebender here. Definitely a card we're gonna have to try to play around in the future. They could have another one in hand. I'm going to assume they're playing a lot of copies of it, and it definitely can be bad for us. So we're going to start things off by milling them here, kind of forcing them to crack a fetch land. Now, because we see one Tidebinder, we know they could be playing one already. So we are going to just make a construct right here, as we don't want them fetching their lands out and then being able to shut off this saga, as we definitely want the bodies it provides. Now they fetch with their Polluted Delta, and they shock in their Watery Grave. So again, this is very much looking like Shadow at this point, kind of the aggressive fetch shocking. So we make our body, then their Scalding Tarn resolves, and they shocked again. Something like Murktide would maybe leave up double blue for counterspell, but the extra shock is definitely looking like Shadow. Yeah, obviously we see the Thoughtseize and a Spell Pierce on top, but they don't have anything to run out. We're going to draw the Pending and make another body. I think this is going to be trying to beat down here, kind of how it's looking. One thing, yes, we grab another Shredder, just really strengthen the lock. When I don't want to attack them too much yet with the constructs, if they're playing Shadow, I want them to kind of have to be at a couple less life, have some chances to take it out with Pending. As you know, if I attack them here, as you'll see in the next couple turns, their Shadow could really be a lot bigger, and then would be able to block the constructs. Whereas here, it's not going to. So we're gonna go through here. We're gonna let them play something before we go to mill them or anything like that. They're just gonna run out of Bowmasters, and which isn't a big deal for us. We don't really draw too many extra cards, so we're not concerned with them pinging us. So we're going to mill a Spell Pierce and a counter spell here, and we see another Spell Pierce. It isn't great, but with all these Urza Sagas, we can definitely make enough blockers that we can we don't have to worry too much about it. Can kind of store up lands. They continue shocking things in, and yeah, just pass through here. Obviously, we're expecting a lot of counter magic from them, and we know they have the Spell Pierce, so it'll definitely be about playing through that. They see a bridge on top, and so we're going to try to play Stirrings. It's mostly bait, as we know they have the Spell Pierce. We're not going to pay for it here. Since we're drawing the bridge anyway, we don't need to have the Stirrings resolve in order to force it through. We're better off just making a construct. But we are going to mill them here, and we're not going to pay for Spell Pierce, obviously. And then just pass through. We're kind of looking for them to tap down one more land, as we're still possibility that they could have Tidebinder in hand. They're going to push a construct, and this is our opportunity. They don't have 3 mana up, and once they untap, they will. So we go ahead and make another construct, and they're going to push a couple of ours, which is good. It kind of limits the number of answers they can have in their hand right now. We let them draw Preordain, and we see another one on top. Again, not going to mill this here. They see a Death Shadow, finally a threat for them, which they just run out. And yeah, so as we pass through, we're going to mill them here. Again, we don't want them to have that Preordain. Generally, with Preordain, if it's down to my last mill rock, I won't mill the Preordain. But if I have multiple mill rocks open, then I will use it to mill it. So it kind of depends on how many answers that I have available. So yeah, we're going to mill them Dress Down. The reason we want to do that is if they have something that kind of forces a draw here, like a double consider or something, then we don't want to go all in with the construct plan. So we want to be sure that the Dress Down isn't coming down when we mill them. Also, Dress Down with Saga with Shadow is obviously very good, as it's going to immediately make it a 13/13. So we draw a bridge here, and Saga ticks up to 3. We're just going to float mana. We are going to play bridge, and we grab the calendar here. I think this is a great opportunity to showcase it, see if we can get some counters on it. And then we're going to play out a bridge, which unfortunately is going to get countered, but this does mean they're tapped out. So we are able to pending their Shadow before they're able to do any shenanigans with it, and then just run out the Saga. And they go ahead and concede pretty shortly here. They're going to try to draw a card. We're just going to mill them, and they're going to pick up an island. And Thoughtseize on top we care a lot less about, and they concede here. Obviously the calendar, they were way scared of it. Didn't think that they could beat it. Now you may be watching this and asking yourself, wouldn't just another mill rock also won the game here? Yes, it would have. But the calendar is cool, so you should. If you want to do cool things, you should play the calendar. Don't ask me how much time it took me to get a match where I had the calendar on the battlefield and the opponent conceded. I never drew it in an opening hand, so never played it turn 1. Yeah, I found it off Saga, and they were too scared of it. So it was pivotal in letting us win this game. But it's still best of 3, so let's see how we can do in game 2. Sideboarding for Grixis Shadow is pretty straightforward. We're just going to cut a Haywire Might and a Nihil Spellbomb. Might doesn't have too many targets in their deck, and they don't really recur things from the graveyard very often, not playing Snapcaster or anything like that. And then in terms of bringing in, just kind of Welding Jar and Spellskite to give us a bit of protection for a lock. Generally, matchups like Murktide or a Grixis Shadow I treat very similarly, where there's not too much to bring in, and it kind of revolves around Thoughtseizing or Inquisitioning the turn before you play an Ensnaring Bridge, and then it's usually pretty clean from there. We open up a pretty good hand. We have the lock, and the needle can be put on something like Engineered Explosives or Odawara. 3 lands, Lantern and Shredder can hopefully help us find bridge, and they lead on Odawara and pass. And seeing this, I think it's abundantly clear they have Spell Pierce here. It's pretty much their only card that they would go Odawara pass, and it also probably means they don't have any fetches or anything like that in hand, as they definitely played those first. So given that, So we are going to play around Spell Pierce at this point because I think it's basically 100% that they have it here. So we're going to run out of Ghoulcaller's Bell, as it's kind of the worst of the three lock pieces that we have. So hopefully it does indeed eat a Spell Pierce, as yeah, it was probably one of the most telegraphed plays I've seen in a while. But definitely better that the Bell gets countered over something like Lantern or Shredder. Once they don't find a second land here, again, this is good for us. My play here is I end up running out double Codex Shredder, and the thinking being, I don't think there's a ton of hands that they keep with just Odawara. It's that they likely have to have some other blue cards. I could see them keeping Odawara like double Spell Pierce or something, as that's pretty interactive. Maybe a Preordain. Like if they had Odawara double Spell Pierce Preordain, I could see them keeping that and then maybe not wanting to play the Preordain in order to get full value out of their like Spell Pierce on Lantern or something. I think it's definitely a weird hand that they have, but that's kind of why I run out the Shredder here. Obviously, I mean, maybe you guys would play it differently. I can see the argument for running out Lantern here. It's kind of playing around, assuming they have a second Spell Pierce. Otherwise, it's definitely a weird hand to keep. Obviously, we'll see if that's true later, and it might not be. But yeah, so they draw their second land and then cast a Thoughtseize here. All right, kind of unfortunate that they took Lantern. But yeah, obviously could have happened last turn too. And we're gonna start just milling ourselves, and of course we mill two good cards and another Lantern here. So we're just gonna run out the Spire that they know about, get a Pithing Needle down on Engineered Explosives. They already played Odawara. They don't usually have too many copies, so that would be the secondary card to name, but here not necessary. And we mill in Academy Ruins. Perfect luck with Shredder milling useful things. It's still correct to blind mill yourself, even if you do this here. We are also up to 5 lands, so we can get the Ruins back, as you'll see us do later. And we draw a bridge, which is nice. So we're gonna play the Ensnaring Bridge here, and unfortunately it is gonna get countered by Drown in the Lock. However, they don't really have any threats or any good pressure, so we are gonna have enough time in order to use a Shredder to get back Academy Ruins to then get back Shredder, and really build our board out from there. So we run out of Glimmer Void, and then we're gonna mill ourselves and then get back the Academy Ruins. And they elect to flash in a Bowmasters here. Now I mill myself with the one Shredder and then get back an Academy Ruins. As we saw, they are playing the Tidebinder, and I want to do it before they can get to 3 mana, as I don't want one of my Shredders shut down at all. So yeah, they swing here for 2. Bowmasters, when it's only 2 damage a turn, is a very slow clock. Decks like this, sometimes against the Dimir control list, kind of all their clock will be is Orcish Bowmasters hitting us for 2. It's very slow. We can usually draw out of that in time. Like sometime in the next 10 turns, we're going to draw cards that are useful. We draw an Inquisition here, which is very nice. And we have a bit of a decision. Sorry, if we go back to their hand, we elect to take the Tidebinder here, and we do leave them with Force. I think if we take Force, we're kind of them drawing a third land. It allows Tidebinder to be turned on, which not only improves their clock a lot, but stops one of our mill rocks. We do have 2 Lanterns in our graveyard, which will be the first card we get back, so Force isn't as big of a deal. And I also, Expressive Iteration is one of the best cards to dig them out of, kind of being stuck on lands here. And so if they want to cast Force, I want to make sure that they're not also getting the card advantage from Expressive Iteration. Importantly, Death Shadow can't be played here, just immediately die, and they're sitting on a couple removal spells. So I think we're in a pretty good spot here as we run out Academy Ruins. And maybe we'll be able to find the calendar. Don't think so, but not 2 games in a row would be kind of nice. Obviously, yeah, we start using Academy Ruins here, get back Lantern, and so we run out Lantern and see a Drown in the Lock on top. I don't think that's a huge deal here, as we we are just going to run them out of counters anyway, as we can Drown in the Lock is much better than Force of Negation, as Force will exile and Drown in the Lock will just keep putting it back on top. Like we talked about it earlier, not gonna so we're gonna mill this one Preordain and see another Fatal Push. Obviously, I think it's a pretty big mistake on their hand to include the Fatal Push in, as they're now gonna have 3 that are dead in hand. We know the Shredder's getting countered, but no big deal. Inventor's Fair reducing the clock of Bowmasters to 1 is kind of insane here. It's going to be really good. I know I talked about some of the reasons not to run Inventor's Fair, and I still stick by that. You'll see it's not actually that useful here. Honestly, just a Saga would be fine, but the reason it's still in is because I forgot to change the list in MTGO, so when I started the matches, it was still in there. Not a big deal here. Doesn't hurt us. There was another game earlier. I don't think I'll show it, but it was, it came up in the opener and had to mulligan a hand away because it was fair and not a courtyard. So you'll see it be good here, but overall still not worth it. We're gonna just let them draw. Bowmasters kind of keep with Codex Shredder. We do want to find a second bridge at some point, so just mill ourselves here and then put back. Grab a Ghoul Caller's Bell here. Again, just switching it up, have a bit more control over both players. Gain a bit of life. So we just run stuff out here. Not a ton to talk about. They're going to kind of slowly be chipping away as we just keep assembling lock pieces, and then we have like a ton of pieces here. Fair will get like a second bridge. Their clock's very slow, and they just elect to concede. They don't have enough pressure combined with our total lock that I guess they figured they were done with the game. Yeah, obviously this is a completely winning position here, as we're pretty likely to hit another bridge soon. Can get back this bridge, and like we can even Codex Shredder, get back Inquisition, take the Force of Negation out of their hand, and then get back the Shredder with Academy Ruins after we get back. Like we're totally winning here, and so we get the victory against Death Shadow. No Millennium Calendar that game, but it came in clutch game 1. So hopefully, I don't know how much more testing I'll do with it, as it basically was the same as a Mill Rock. So let me know what you think, and if you're playing with the calendar, and we'll see you in the next one.